Doctor chooses the Agador. Welcome to episode 511 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you, 2024. And featuring The Truth of Peladon, written by Tim Foley, and starring Paul McGann as the Doctor, and Mira Sayal as Arla DeCanto. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I'm already tired of summer weather. With me are technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
Oh, sweet, sweet smell of technology failing.
And Erin Romeo Moonberg.
Desperately writing up our promotions. Yay! Promotion, was it promotion? Oh no, it's social media manager. Yay, social media manager-ish person. Yep.
Social manager. That's your new title now.
Yeah.
Social manager.
Yay.
So, I'll give my update since I literally just submitted my stats final as Matt was setting up for the stream. I have just finished my spring semester, submitted both of my finals, which means now I have 2 manuscripts that I need to get my ass into gear working on, and a conference to prepare for next week, which is why I will not be in the next podcast. And after that, I'll be in Connecticut for somewhere between a week and 2 weeks, so I won't be in the following podcast. And hopefully I don't spend money I don't have while I'm there, because I'm kind of broke, and I have no idea how expensive this trip is going to be.
Not on some wood for you.
Right. But at least it should hopefully be nice to see some family. You never know with family whether it's going to be a positive, neutral, or negative experience. It'll at least be nice to. It'll be at least nice to catch up with my sister if I see her and she's not too busy with work. I think that's it for me.
Oh. Everything is a computer well at work. Come to find out, at least my major realization is that our problem was not the computers themselves. It's the fact that whoever made the programs that we use on those said computers made them like they're Windows 98 programs. And if they're made like Windows 98, they'll always work like Windows 98. Ta-da! No improvement. We need a software update. Other than that, haven't heard anything about the vehicle. Did an early Mother's Day yesterday. We have applied for a duplex. We have to wait till next week to find out if we're we're possibly on the short list or not. The duplex decided to finally reduce the price per month, and suddenly everybody raised their hand. Apparently. So wait and see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else major. Not particularly off the top of my head. That was about the majority of this week. Other than I really want to get back to another solo play game, but it's like pulling teeth because I still got several boxes of stuff that I need to get through to get ready for moving by next month. Plus my entire room.
It's going to be weird not pulling up to that house. I've only been there twice, but still.
You get to go somewhere better. We're going back to West Bend, or at least in the general area of it so far.
It's going to be weird not pulling up to the place that I don't pull up to.
I'm going to finally escape the boonies.
Are you going to be closer to work then, or?
Oh, if we get move into the town that we're looking at, I'll be 10 minutes away from work or less, depending. Especially with that last place we just looked at.
Hit by someone.
Less likely to get hit by someone, yes. Oh, and also we'll be literally down the block away from our family doctors.
Cool.
Yeah, everything's within easy reach if we get that place. Imagine I'd be able to actually get food, get home, and actually have a half hour to eat before we start the Wednesday night stream. Imagine.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention this stream.
Hmm.
I'd have an half an hour to get home, actually, like feel like I can relax and breathe for a second, and then get to putting everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be able to start before 11 o'clock at night.
Cool.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah, those would be some nice changes. Knock on wood, though. Because apparently we were like group 4 in one day that wanted to see the place.
Mm.
Jeez, is this a rental or a purchase?
A duplex, so it's a rental.
Oh, okay.
How's the housing market in that area? Are there...
There's a lot of places, but the variety of good varies heavily.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Is the variety of affordable?
This one will be easily affordable as long as we can actually get it. And another one that became slightly more affordable too,
Yeah.
so we might be looking at that if we
Okay.
don't hear soon enough. So it's just a wild chase to find something that's going to connect in a decent amount of time so we can get there.
For sure, for sure. All right, Erin, how have you been?
Okay, I've been.
I know you've had some adventures.
Some adventures. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I cleaned domestic stuff like doing laundry, cleaning dishes and whatnot. But I also cleaned off the countertop for my bathroom, which I haven't done in a few months. And I now remember kind of the color of my bathroom countertop. I usually am really good about that stuff, but I don't know what happened. I just let it fall off a cliff. I've also been
there are things that I clean every week to 2 weeks over the summer, and then when school starts, it can go 3 months without me having the energy to clean them. So I know what it's like to have things fall by the wayside.
Yeah, and it's mostly me studying up for the podcast because I'm on Generation Cyberpunk, and we were doing Metal Gear, the Metal Gear series. So I was watching these anywhere from 5 to 9 hour long quote unquote movies on YouTube that were made up of all of the cutscenes for the Metal Gear games.
Yeah.
As for each Metal Gear game that we were covering, especially Phantom Pain took forever to get through. I'm really happy that I actually did finish it. So, but then I didn't get a chance to watch the Metal Gear Survive movie anyway. So I've been watching that. I've been getting caught up on Doctor Who. Watched all of Flux. Watched all of Jodie Whittaker's specials. Watched all of the 14th Doctor specials. I'm getting caught up on Star Trek Discovery. Got caught up on Star Trek second season of Strange New Worlds. Started watching Lower Decks. What else? I'm finished Tales of the Empire. Started Tales of the Jedi. Continuing with the first season of The Bad Batch. Finished Ahsoka. That's all within like the past. Well, the whole Metal Gear and all that stuff was within the past like few weeks. In fact, so yeah, and Ahsoka was too technically because I watched that when I was sick.
You missed out on Metal Gear Survive. Imagine the horror of missing out on one of the most lackluster games in the franchise.
I know, it's basically Metal Gear meets zombie shooter. Meets survival game, so you have to eat and drink in order to keep up your stamina.
Not even a good zombie game either. You just literally sit on the other side of a fence and poke things with a stick.
Yeah, basically.
Lame.
Yep. Yep.
As somebody who mained Killick on Soul Calibur, I'm like, yeah, poke things with a stick. That's the right way to do it, right?
But did you have a protective fence that made everything useless and pointless and just became a drag? A boring, slow drag?
Today's I should say today specifically went to Sushi Lovers all you can eat restaurant where it's kind of a small plate all you can eat with hibachi and sushi and obviously. But then we also came friends of ours got together and we tried out some ice wine from Cold Country Vineyard up north in Wisconsin here. So that was really good. Ice wine is especially sweet. It's almost like grape juice. You don't taste the alcohol at all in it. And then we also tried one of their regular wines. So we had about 3 bottles that we went through. It was really good. So I'm also a little bit schnockered, but not too bad.
We got trees, we got rocks, we can bless everything until we're persnookered.
That everything?
Yep, that's everything for me.
Not that it was a short list.
I know,
All right.
seriously.
On tonight's show, we have birthdays and news. Then we have some geek talk. We have some reviews of shames and retcons. Then we have our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings. And then, partially depending on how late we end up running after everything, we should be voting on, now that we will have completed all of the 2022 Scribe Award nominee reviews, which means we can vote on which story we think should have won. If we end up running late, we'll just postpone that until all 4 of us are here.
Right.
Which might be better, but that's at least 2 weeks, at least 3 weeks from now. So it's probably going to be out of everyone's mind if we wait that long. So starting with the birthdays, on May 1st, Sacha Dhawan, the spy master from 2020 to 2022, turned 40. Joanna Lumley, the 13th Doctor from The Curse of Fatal Death, turned 78. On May 2nd, Dan Watts, who did incidental music for 9 Sarah Jane Adventure serials from 09 to 011, which is about a little over half the stories during that time. Well, turns out that Dan Watts is my weekly person who I got so caught up in the details that I forgot to actually write the age of. And since I'm the one talking, I didn't catch it while normally I would have tried to catch that while Alex was talking. Dan Watts turned 49. And in our final birthday today on the 4th, Anthony Caff, who's on the list due to being a member of the Classic Who Modern Who Club as Charles in The Visitation and Godsaker and Empress of Mars, turned 65. So that is the end of our birthdays. Short list this week. Happy birthday, Sasha, Joanna, Dan, and Anthony. From there, we move on to our episode news, and we've got the cast list for the first 2 episodes, starting with Space Babies. So, of course, outside of our main cast, we have a character named Jocelyn, who I don't believe we know, unless it's... No, that's the one we already did know about, the one who's we expect is in charge of running the space station. We see more of Carla and Cherry from the Christmas special. Then we have Eric and voice of Eric. That might be one of the babies, or it might be some other suit actor that requires a separate voice. We have Poppy and voice of Poppy, same thing. Voice of Sandra, voice of Marcel, voice of Johnny. So that more and more tells me that these are probably people voicing the babies. Yeah. We have Rico, Lucia, and Boogeyman. So Boogeyman is not all CGI and is played by Robert Strange. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I guess we have confirmation. Eric is the baby that speaks in the trailer saying, "It's you." I guess they talked about Poppy in Doctor Who magazine. Um, so that is it for the space babies, unless anybody has any comments on any of these particular actors. I don't think we know any of them.
Hmm.
Not that I'm aware of.
Then we move on to The Devil's Cord, which allegedly contains a twist, according to Cultbox. So let's take a look at it. Oh, Twist being Susan Twist, returning as Tea Lady. So Susan Twist is the one who covered in the past as there being theories of her being some sort of important player in the finale who's appeared in all of these different roles throughout the seasons, whatever you count the specials as, and up to this point. We already knew the Maestro as Jinx Monsoon. There's Timothy Drake, Henry Tea Trolley Lady, of course the Beatles, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, studio producer. We have Cilla Black, Vinny, elderly woman. We have Murray Gold as Murray Gold. So I don't think we expected that.
Hmm.
And we have other people playing themselves. I'm guessing these are also people in music. Shirley Ballas and Johannes Rodabay. Anybody familiar with those names?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
That's doesn't mention them unless I missed it in the cast list or like in the article, I mean. So basically there's people playing historical composers and singers and
Hmm.
musicians and actual composers and probably singers and musicians.
I mean, it is cool that they got the people playing the Beatles from the Liverpool area. They have a former costume designer is also making a cameo appearance as one of the victims.
Mm.
It seems.
So
Um,
Shirley Ballas, or it might be pronounced Bias, depending on her ancestry, is a dancer, and Johannes Rodabay is a dancer and choreographer. So,
hmm.
but the key thing is that if they're playing themselves, they're not in the '60s. So, why we have music people in the '60s and music people in the 2020s?
Mm.
Wonder what's going to happen there.
Hmm.
All right, from there we move on to current cast and crew news. First off, Ncuti Gatwa will be appearing in an Oscar Wilde play this winter. So one that says that the current round of filming will be done before the winter, and two, here we're seeing some of course, the goal was to structure the filming in such a way that the stars had the chance to do things like continue in the theater between seasons, and looks like that's what we're seeing here. Um, the play is the importance of being earnest. Playing at the National Theatre's Littleton Theater. I'm not sure why the theater has its own theater, but I imagine the National Theater is like a brand name sort of thing.
Probably.
I imagine if there are any British people listening to this, they are throwing down their tea in outrage at my ignorance, but
This is
so it
right up.
is.
You'll be hearing from my solicitor.
Gatwa will be playing Bachelor Algernon Moncrief. And then other people will be playing other roles, but I don't recognize their names, so I'm not going to bother reading them out. Um, and then there's some speculation about the filming schedule, so there's no point just reading that off randomly. Um, Next is the 15th Doctor has a wax figure coming to Madame Tussauds.
Hmm.
Um, and of course, with celebrity with the wax museum, they're either so good that you can't tell them apart from the real person, or so bad that they don't look anything like them, and there's usually no in between.
Yep. Although Madame
Uh,
Tussauds is usually notoriously known for being on the good side of that, but
Hmm.
right. Usually,
there's a couple
there
here
have
and
been
there
some
where you just kind of
stinkers as
go
well.
like, oh, never mind.
So the 15th Doctor waxwork will be on display at Madame Tussauds London in July 2024.
Hmm.
So I don't even know how many locations. I know there's the one in New York that I've been to. There's
Hmm.
at least one in LA and I guess one in London as well.
I
So
guess I
yeah, I don't
didn't
know.
realize there was more than just the London one.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
see,
there's
I
more than the LA one. Okay.
right, and I thought there was only the New York ones. So we've
Well, what a wacky development this is.
right.
We just start pointing at each other going, wait, you only know that one? I didn't know that one existed.
Who are you? Wait, who are you?
All right. Moving on from the Doctor, we have some news from RTD, and I'm hoping Radio Times actually wrote this down and is not expecting us to click on this video, because we can't play that without being probably claimed by Radio Times. But this is RTD talks about why he carried on the Chris Chibnall's arcs. Here we have the quote. I think the timeless child doesn't mean anything to anyone, to a lot of viewers, genuinely to a few outside the show. What does that mean? But what it does mean is the Doctor's an orphan. He was abandoned. He was adopted by the Time Lords. So you play that for the emotions.
Which is a really smart
Uh,
thing to do.
he continued, I don't want to hang things off science fiction words that simply won't mean anything around the breakfast table. But if you're talking about a family with a world in which people adopt children or foster children or abandon children, then suddenly it begins to register with you. So that's our take on that. So basically saying, he's using something with stakes that people can relate to as a way to, keep the story interesting, to keep the drama meaningful rather than being all about, toy makers from other universes and things like that are a little harder to relate to.
What it also kind of sounds like to me is that he's like, yeah, I'm keeping it, but we're not going to really try to hard reference it
Mm-hmm.
because
Um,
that already pissed off people when it was made to begin with. We don't want to piss them off anymore. We're just going to only reference things like the fact that the Doctor is an orphan.
I was gonna say, so yeah, so we have the very next paragraph. He talks about how this connects to Ruby Sunday being abandoned on the church doorstep and how that's the thing that connects them. So I'm guessing at the very least they're going to talk about it, even if they
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about it in a Gallifrey sense, but maybe talk about it in like what it means to the Doctor emotionally, which was kind of brought up in the Christmas special as well. Um, of all the showrunners we've had, RTD I think is the only one that never went back to Gallifrey. Gallifrey came. No, he went to Gallifrey once, technically, at the end of time in his very last
Mm-hmm.
episode. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of curious if that's going to continue.
Hmm.
And is there anything else here?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else about Chibnall arc. And then they're kind of just promoting the upcoming episodes. So that's the end on the Radio Times article. And then also from the Radio Times, and as this is especially poignant since, we just announced her birthday,
Hmm.
Joanna Lumley is confirmed as UK's jury spokesperson for Eurovision 2024. So Eurovision is basically the Olympics for European musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Although, from what I hear about people's attitudes toward Eurovision, that might be bigging it up a little too much. I'm not sure. I don't
It
exactly
was
follow it.
Eurovision was originally founded, I think, around post World War II
Yeah,
or so. So it was kind of it is kind of the Olympics. Let's make peace instead of making war on each other and
Hmm.
by competition,
Yeah.
and I
that
would
type of
also
thing.
add that this competition is also where a lot of big bands actually made their first final breakouts to become being big bands. ABBA was
Okay.
discovered
Hmm.
through Eurovision.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they came together before Eurovision, but them doing, I believe it was Waterloo, was their first big breakthrough on Eurovision.
Hmm.
And as part of her role, Lumley will deliver the results of the UK's national jury live during the grand final on next Saturday, the 11th of May. So I guess it sounds like basically each country has a group of people that vote, and then they have a spokesperson that goes ahead and votes in
Mm-hmm.
a bigger jury that's probably throughout Europe. Well, it's interesting that the UK still gets to be in Eurovision when the UK
It's called Eurovision, but it is more or
separated
less
from
a
Europe.
worldwide thing. It's not
Oh,
just
okay.
Europe. Yeah,
Oh, I thought it actually was just Europe. Okay.
it was started in Europe. It's hosted in Europe, but it's technically a worldwide thing. Anyone from around the world can actually join in
So does the
as a
UK
band.
does the US participate?
I believe there's a few U.S. bands here and there for sure that
Okay.
do participate. But for places like U.S. and the U.K., it's mostly a hey, here's this up and coming group. We want to see if other places would
Mm,
connect with them. Go do it.
Hmm.
gotcha.
Give it a
Moving
shot.
on from moving on from cast and crew news, we have new releases. And part of that is, in addition to being Star Wars Day, May the 4th is also Free Comic Book Day. And that means that the first 15th Doctor comic book is out now, available wherever you get your free comics on Free Comic Book Day, which I think includes some like Comixology and things like that. So, yeah, so that is available to be grabbed and read.
Mm-hmm.
And next,
I kind of
finally,
wish I
we
had grabbed
have.
it and read it.
Uh, and then we have one big finish release. This was on May 2nd. The second of the Morbius trilogy, Dark Gallifrey Morbius Part 2, written by Tim Foley and starring Samuel West, is out now.
For those that don't remember, Morbius was actually probably one of the few Time Lords that we got to know the name of outside of the Master and the Doctor.
Hmm. Yes, he was a renegade, former Time Lord president who was exiled and then became Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. That's also where we got introduced to the sisters.
Yep.
Alrighty.
All right, so that is the end of our news. So we go on to Erin with Tales of the Empire.
Okay, yes, I did watch in its entirety Disney's Tales of the Empire for the Star Wars franchise, of course. Um, it does reveal the backstory of Morgan Elsbeth, who, if you remember, is the main villain from Ahsoka, the Ahsoka series.
Hmm.
So you learn a little bit more from her, and then you also learn a little bit more of what happened to Barasafi. So two more characters that you can see their fates and everything. I thought it was pretty good. Of course, it's Dave Filoni, very much reminiscent of Rebels and all of his other work too. So, and of course, also referencing Rebels, Clone Wars, and Ahsoka. So, if you enjoy those series and you want a little bit more background on what happened to the characters or where they came from, go ahead and check it out. That's it for me.
Okie doke.
Well, it's not it for you because next we have a list of reviews of things that you've watched. So I would probably not do the full likes, dislikes, favorite scenes, and everything for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe final thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and your ratings for all the ones that you're going to rate.
All right. Of course, I just throw something in my mouth just as you say that.
Don't do that.
So I've got Ordeal Peladon. I've got the 2022 specials for Doctor Who and the 2023 specials for Doctor Who. Where would you like me to start?
Were you rating Flux?
Oh yeah, and also
So
rating Flux.
if we go chronologically, at least based on review, our podcast order, Flux would be first.
All right, Flux felt almost like a nothing burger. The villains were super confusing. Everything was just super confusing. I did the angels and everything. I don't know, and the division. I feel confused. I don't know if I'm angry about it. I don't think it's bad enough to be angry about, but I don't think it was very good. It's frustrating. It's just like, what's going on here?
A bunch of wasted time.
There's some aspects that were kind of interesting, like the time amnesia that she suffers. Suddenly everybody's a badass and knows what they're doing, and then understanding that that's actually her reliving a past life or a future life. I don't know. But nothing's actually clarified, or a lot of stuff isn't clarified. Lapari were fun. I liked the Lapari costume. I thought it was cute. It actually, from certain angles, it actually did look like a dog talking.
I should ask, because of some of the stuff you mentioned, did you watch the season before this?
I did, but I don't remember much of it because it's been years since I've actually watched the show.
Got you. Okay, fair. Because I was like, if you never saw the episodes with Joe Martin before, then this would be extra confusing. So that's why I asked.
With Joe Martin?
Yeah, the renegade doctor, or the fugitive doctor. I mean,
the fugitive doctor. Who is that?
The Joe one that Martin. You were just talking about.
The person that she keeps that
lady,
incarnation that she keeps flashing back to.
I like her because she's the cool doctor. She's like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, the fugitive doctor. Yep. Yes, I did see. I am aware that there is a black lady doctor, known as the I didn't know she was known as the fugitive doctor, but
it's because her. It's because her first episode was Fugitive of the Jadoons, so that's what people call her because there's no number to give her.
Oh, okay.
You could also call her the damn it, what's the name of the group she's part of that they keep mentioning during Flux?
The Division?
Yeah, you could call her the Division Doctor, but that's not the fan term that stuck because the Division came after the fact.
Not to mention the Division doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah, I assume that she is one of the doctors that is stuck in the fob watch that was dropped into the TARDIS. One of the past lives. Okay. Yeah. So, which is a shame because I would love to see, or I would love to hear Big Finish audio adventures with her in them. And all this other stuff. So, yeah, I actually enjoyed her take on the Doctor. What else? But yeah, I do know that, and so that did tie into Flux. Rating for Flux was, the budget was actually pretty decent on it, but the writing was just so damn confusing. I'm gonna go 3.5.
3.5. So that changes the average rating from a 3.0 to a 3.1.
Yeah, it's not hateable to give it any lower than that, but certainly it needed to. You can tell a convoluted story without being absolutely confusing like that, and it was not. Yeah, it was not well written. I don't think.
No.
They got in over their heads. Eve of the Daleks.
And I actually need to step away briefly, probably because of how much fluids I've been drinking to offset the heat today.
Okay.
So feel free to give your thoughts and just either remember your ratings or post them in the chat so that when I get back, I can quickly catch up.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So let's continue on with Eve of the Daleks. I thought that one was kind of really cool and unique. The whole ground, and they also shout out Groundhog Day and all that. And I'm like, this is just Groundhog Day, and then they actually shout out. And the further the episode goes along, the more I enjoyed it. So
I will say that was one of the few specials I actually really liked a lot.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that one.
It took me a hot minute to warm up to it, but once I warmed up to it, I'm like, okay, I'm getting the flow of this one. Yeah.
So I'm going to say Eve of the Daleks was actually a 4.5 for me.
All right. Yep. Make sure
it was
that.
actually quite enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. I believe I had a couple of nitpicks about it, but as far as I can remember, it's like, oh, okay.
All right, Legend of the Sea Devils. That wasn't too bad, I guess. I don't know. I just don't see Yaz and the Doctor being together. It's still.
It feels forced.
I'm okay. Yeah, it feels forced. It feels like shoehorned in or just forced. I don't know.
She feels like a third cog in the wheel.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I don't mind the Doctor dating a woman while she's also a woman, or anything like that. It just didn't.
There's no chemistry there because there's just no character there. Is I think the main issue of that.
Yeah, there's just I didn't. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I don't. I think Yaz was just too underdeveloped, and that this should have been a little bit more apparent throughout the series. In which case, it would have been really satisfying at this point to see them, get together. But like, there wasn't just. It was just came out of the blue and everything. It's just like, well, where's this coming from? Why wasn't this in the very beginning of the series, like within the first few episodes or so?
And why is she so obsessed with the Doctor, even though she really doesn't seem to want to have any real connection with the Doctor? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It was nice to see the Sea Devils back. I like the special effects for them and the fact that they can speak without actually opening their mouths still, which is a nice play on like the original horrible masks that they use. And the Sea Devils were actually one of the monsters that would tend to give me nightmares as a kid. So, because they were just so creepy with their freaking fish eyes. At least they were a little bit more. At least they blinked in this.
Yeah, they now blink. It's an easy effect to do these days, so it's an easy fix. And I believe they've come back a couple times now.
Okay.
At least once, some more for sure. Actually, now that I think of it, I think they're actually making a spin-off for them.
Yeah, because I didn't see anything about them in the later specials at all, unless they mentioned them, beside the point. However, I don't know if the Chinese setting really was there.
I don't think the Chinese setting really did anything for it, and I also don't think the characters were that interesting. It needs some more fleshing out again.
Yeah, they mention a lot of these people from history, but they don't go into detail
why they're
feel like I
knew
anything about them or that I should care about them. So Sea Devils, I'm going to give, as much as I hate to do it, I don't know. It just felt like an empty special for me, and I really was hoping that they would come back to a good story, but I'm going to give it a 3.5. Okay. Unfortunately. Now on to Power of the Doctor, which I thought was pretty good, pretty interesting. It was nice to see Ace especially coming back. That was pretty cool, especially how, because like before she slips back into her old persona and stuff, I was just like, is this really Ace? She seems like so toned down. She seems like a completely different person. I almost didn't recognize her, and I certainly didn't recognize Tegan. I didn't recognize Tegan at all until they said who she was. But and then having Ace team up with Graham, that was fun. That was actually kind of a fun little thing they did. And the Master becoming the Doctor was kind of weird, but I'm willing to write it off as, the Master just being kind of a weirdo at this point, kind of
Which
oddly obsessed with the Doctor.
which is not
Creepily.
unknown. Which is not unheard of, to be fair, for the Master. The Master has some weird issues about the Doctor. We don't get it.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
his
get it.
obsession. It plays into that, and we know that a lot of people who wind up obsessed with others tend to like also want to do that replacement thing. So, like, I want to be that person. So, yeah, the whole thing about turning the volcano, spraying them down with like metal doesn't seem like it would work that well though. So,
Shrug. Eh.
And the renegade Dalek was also kind of weird. It's like, really? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can see a renegade Dalek and stuff, but it just seems kind of Deus Ex to me. Like, hey, by the way, here's all this information. hmm. Yeah, I'm going to give that. My brain almost died there. I'm going to give the Power of the Doctor. Because I do like the interactions between the doctors and like between Peter Davison's doctor and Tegan, especially. The fact that he tries to tell her that he didn't forget her and that he does. They do mention Adric a lot, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if that's actually going to come to the forefront. I'm going to give this a 4.0. That sounds like it's good. Pretty good for me. Yeah,
That was
I
Power of the
seriously.
Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was Power of the Doctor. I have the
Okay.
others written in chat too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just telling Matt that they keep mentioning Adric, so I seriously, they mentioned him at least a couple of times. They mentioned him in Flux, I think, right? I think they mentioned him in Flux, and then
They
they
may have if there was a mention of specifically focusing on dead companions.
No, they mentioned him in Power of the Doctor because they
Mhm.
mentioned how Tegan is thinking of Adric.
Right.
She's like, "Oh, what am I thinking of now?" And the doctor's like, "You're thinking of Adric," and because she's surrounded by Cybermen. Um, so and then the second time they mention Adric is with I'll just phase into these specials here. Uh, in the Giggle, they mentioned him in the Giggle because they're going through
Mm-hmm.
all the other companions who either passed away or pretty
Oh, I
much
guess
had their
that's
lives
fine
ruined.
then.
Yeah, well, I guess that's fine then.
Yep.
So, yeah, I believe that's where they mention him. They may have mentioned him in Flux, but I thought,
This scene that became a meme.
I thought that the maker mentioned Adric because I can't remember what defense the doctor had for letting Adric die in that scene.
Because he was part of time events, he couldn't pull
Oh
Ethic
yeah,
out of
that's
there
right.
without affecting
Mhm.
what the Earth
Mm-hmm.
would become.
Yep. I
Without
mean,
preventing the extinction of the dinosaurs.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of wonder about that. Are you sure you couldn't just beam the TARDIS onto there and just scoop them up and let the ship still fall onto the Earth? I don't know. Anyway, so on to the 14th Doctor specials, of course, with Donna Noble, the Star Beast. Star Beast was fun. I don't buy the woman playing Rose as Donna Noble's daughter. She's just super freaking tall. She's so tall. I'm like, this. How old is she supposed to be? She's supposed to be like 16 or something.
She's supposed to be in high school yet, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't look like
Yeah, I
she's
think
in
she
high
was like
school.
19 playing 16 or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't buy that she was a high schooler. She looked like she was in her early 20s. I'm like, was Donna Noble pregnant on the TARDIS or something?
Yeah, that's an issue with that, in that no matter what you do, the timeline doesn't add up unless you go the route that when they restarted the universe in the Big Bang, it somehow
Mm-hmm.
changed Donna's timeline.
Uh-huh.
Like that's it,
It
because it's basically Rose would have to be born before her parents met.
yeah. And we don't see or hear any mention of her. So, yeah, I don't know. Like that was just
There
it was
is logic in what he says.
yeah. It's just I don't know about that. I thought it was cool. I like the villain, but the villain is also very MCU. I'll just say that. Like it felt
Well,
like Disney had a hand in it, like Lilo and
Considering his
whatever.
considering that this is actually a remake of a comic book story which was released by Marvel Comics.
Uh huh.
was it? It was. I thought it was Doctor Who magazine.
I know Marvel had a hand in releasing them on stateside for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm. Yeah, this very much obviously the cute and fuzzy creature played into that whole trope being an evil thing,
Mhm.
or the ultimate evil thing.
It's cute and it's
Yeah.
lovable. That means it's evil. Kill it with fire.
Yeah, basically, why are we still even pondering this at this point? I do enjoy the fact that Rose was sitting there making little stuffed animals that reflected the monster forms or the monsters that Donna Noble had,
Mhm.
encountered and that on her adventures. Although it would be more interesting if somehow Rose was on those adventures. I don't know. Like I
Mm,
know that they split the conscious between the two of them, but yeah, I don't know. So it didn't quite work out, and it was very cliche. So, and it was also it felt very Disney too. Like it felt like the show was kind of pulling some punches because no one really dies. I don't think, or
yeah.
do they die?
No.
I don't think there's too many
I
people
kn-
who die
Only
in
like
that.
I
only
know.
like maybe a couple aliens when the
I was gonna say I know at least one of the alien cops was straight up vaporized.
mhm.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't think any humans died though, at least not on screen.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get from these specials overall, by the way, is that they kind of feel like a slightly higher budget, more well-written version of what Stephen Moffat was going for, where nobody dies and the people who do die do so in like horrific fairy tale kind of fashion where they're kind of undeathed, like people being turned into balls and whatnot, which let's go into Wild Blue Yonder.
What, you haven't rated the Star Beast
Oh
yet?
wait. Oh yeah, Star Beast was I would give that I do like Donna Noble in it, so I'm going to give it a 3.5. I do like her return. I thought
Three
that was a lot
point
of fun.
five.
And also I think David Tennant is supposed to look a little bit more haggard
He
and
does look
stuff. That
older.
he's
Yeah.
I mean, I heard people complaining in the theater during the 50th anniversary special about him looking older and more haggard and stuff, and like how he looked kind of rough.
My boy's over 50. Come on, people. He
Well,
was
that
like
and fatherhood ages you. Parenthood ages you.
mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, he's supposed to look kind of strung out, like he's or not strung out. He's like he's running around ragged because he
yeah,
is.
in the 50th, it's weird because it's supposed to be set like in between, um, what is it? In between was it in between Mars and End of Time? Unless there
Mm-hmm.
was something in between there, I'm forgetting.
Hmm.
Whereas this is it's a whole new generation, so it can look like whatever the fuck he wants to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just kind of yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to look just kind of older and more haggard. I don't know. Anyway,
But yeah, so your rating changes the Star Beast from a 3.67 to a
mhm.
3.63.
Okay. Ooh.
So close to the consensus on that one.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So Wild Blue Yonder, I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a really different series. Kind of not quite ship in a bottle, but very limited, extremely limited cast, extremely limited environment. And I thought the
Mhm.
monsters were actually creepy. Like at first they seemed kind of goofy with like, oh, my arms are too long, or my jaw, my body has like extra joints and shit, and like, but like the more they go on, the creepier they get. The more they get locked into like the more they get locked into the physical forms, and then you realize, oh, these things were not like us at all, and now all of a sudden they are like us, and they're
Mhm.
cementing their physical forms. So, and the fact that they were killed by a slow bomb, that was great. Just like the whole mystery leading up to that was really cool, and the fact that the space astronaut things were not human. It looked like they were possibly horse head like people.
I thought
Mhm.
maybe a lizard, but I wasn't sure.
Hmm. So yeah, I like that one. I would give Wild Blue Yonder, actually, I would give that 4.5
Four
because
point five.
we actually see a large range of emotion go through the Doctor and Donna. Like they're almost at each other. Well, not quite at each other's throats, but Donna's actually getting really pissed off with the Doctor. It's only supposed to be a short trip, and that he winds up.
I mean, she's the one who spilled the coffee on the console.
Yeah. So, or was it the
So that
Doctor that was like really pissed off at Donna? I can't quite. They were yelling at each other a lot
They
in
were
that
frustrated with each
series.
other, and then also all the other
yeah.
stuff that has
Hmm.
caused the Doctor issues came up and gave him a moment of bullying point.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So that
And
changes the average from 4.67 to 4.63. So again, very close to the
mhm.
consensus.
Oh, everyone must have given that a 5.0 then. If I lowered
We had
it.
2 5s and Matt gave it a 4.
Oh, okay. All right. Then finally the Giggle. I hadn't seen him in so long that I forgot his name. And I
I,
still kind
I
of
can't
forgot his
I can't
name.
think of his name either.
The
Yeah,
toy maker or Neil Patrick
Toy maker
Harris?
Neil
Neil
Patrick
Patrick.
Harris. Yeah, I because he used to be all over the place with geek media, kind of like with
In and out, yeah,
uh
with the different
yeah.
things. In fact, over
He
his
was
time
he,
as an actor.
he was
Hmm.
Doctor Horrible.
He was Dr. Horrible. He
Mm-hmm.
was, of course, Doogie Howser, but like he
Mm-hmm.
was guest starring in a lot of other stuff too. Kind of like Will Wheaton and Felicia Day. It was kind of almost like a trifecta, and them and a the guy who played Castle, Nathan Fillion.
Hmm.
Like they all seemed to be guest starring and like really kind of taking off, and then after How I Met Your Mother ended, he just kind of fell off the face of the planet. I feel like no one was talking about him anymore, mostly because they hated the ending for that show. Anyway, the Giggle, I thought it was kind of interesting. I also was kind of disappointed in how they handled the unit. They basically turned it into Avengers and stuff. So it's
Yeah, pretty
another.
much.
It felt like Disney was meddling a bit, or maybe trying to call itself out, like, "Oh, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, MCU." Like, yes, yes, we get it. I thought Unit was supposed to be kind of more under the radar type stuff. Are they just kind of giving up and admitting that aliens are like a thing now?
I
So
mean,
I
how many
guess.
close encounters do we need in a universe before people
I
just
was gonna say,
catch
yeah,
on?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the point, that there's been so many alien incursions that they kind of have to be public
They
at this
can't
point.
keep it under. Yeah, they can't keep it under wraps anymore. So
And
now
they
they've
don't
just
have
been a
Torchwood
giant.
to go around erasing people's memories either.
Yeah, so I guess, and it just, the thing is that it looks just like Avengers Tower, and it's just like, oh,
It
come on,
really
people,
does
for
look
crying
like
out
Stark
loud.
Tower. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
Stark
for crying
Tower.
out
Yeah,
loud.
it's just like, I mean, if this were at the height of the MCU, then yeah, cool, that would be fun and everything. But everyone's so burnt out on the MCU. Oh, geez, stop trying to push it. It's dead. You're beating a dead horse. Anyway, I enjoyed the toy makers' little games and stuff. The undeath thing that I was talking about, how people don't die, even though Tennant says, or the doctor's like, oh yeah, they're dead, forget about them or something like that. After the soldiers are turned into piles of balls, and even when the assistants
And some of them are thrown off the roof.
some of them are thrown off the roof, and then also, oh yeah, not the balls, but like people just like, oh, they might still be falling, yeah. But like, yeah, just she catches the ball and the dude is screaming. Ah! It's just like that was horrific. So yeah, and then I think it's all reversed after they defeat the toy maker, isn't it? Because they burn the doll, I believe.
I don't think so.
No, not that I'm aware of. No, I'm pretty sure they're LF'd. All the people that were supposedly dead are basically still dead. I don't recall any reversal on anything.
Well, there's like a mention of a golden tooth imprisoning the master, and I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it basically just says that's something that happened off screen before he encountered the Doctor, after entering this universe. And then I think that tooth is then shown, like, after the toy maker is gone, that tooth is shown sitting there on the helipad, and you hear the master laughing.
As a hand grabs the tooth, yeah.
Okay.
Because they're doing it again.
Yeah. Somehow the master gets out of it. Again, I don't remember that. I remember the tooth, like him smiling at the tooth with the tooth twinkling in his mouth, but like I don't remember the whole like master laughing and stuff like that. I might have to go back and rewatch the end.
It's basically like a reshot of that time when they took the ring off the master and then they later on regenerated it back into the weird electric skeleton thingy.
Yeah, that thing. Okay, never mind.
It was basically almost the exact same thing, but just that it's a tooth instead of the ring now.
Which, to be fair, is still more detail on how the master comes back than we normally get.
Yeah, like I've forgotten a good chunk of the Russell T Davies era, and I kind of don't feel like going back and rewatching everything for it because I've got so many other new things to watch that I haven't seen before. Anyway, the bi-generate thing was okay. I'm okay with that. It's fine. Whatever. It's goofy and weird, but it's freaking Doctor Who. I'm willing to to allow for it.
If I may, we'll let you rate it first. We'll let you rate this first because probably wait 4 minutes 40 seconds.
And we did talk about the whole like RTD interview and how that affects things off stream. So Erin's aware of that now.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I guess I'm okay with every other Doctor being their own person, so that they're all separate entities now.
Which makes no sense.
So what happens if they all decide to regenerate? Are they capable of regenerating, or are they just
it's kind of basically when they die, their memories and feelings go into the next incarnation, which is sort of like basically they said like the healing David Tennant is doing now is like through the timeline going into Ncuti Gatwa, so it's just wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Oh,
which if it fits for anyone, it's for a Time Lord.
All right, so the Giggle, I would say probably a 4.0, just because I like the playfulness of, I like the playfulness of the toy maker. I like the fact that Mel's back, and she's not just some ditzy Mel. She actually stretches she shows her chops, I guess. What?
I like how you give the review and then the rating, and then you give a whole nother review of the same episode.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
You can't stop me.
So 4.0 was already the average, so that does not change.
Okay, cool, awesome.
All right, the Ordeal of Peladon.
Yeah, we haven't even gone on to the actual Truth of Peladon review yet. Ordeal of Peladon. What I liked about the serial.
Well, I forgot to color them all blue, but I can do that on my own. Or red, whatever.
Yeah. What I liked in general about the serial, I guess it was just kind of cool to hear King Peladon come back, and the fact that he was mostly the main character for the show, so that was kind of cool. And interesting in that it was a very Doctor Light serial. So, let me see here. What I disliked about the serial, I think it's just the fact that it feels like the Arcturians. Do we know for sure are the Arcturians controlling Skarn? I think they are, isn't it? Or is it
I
just the
think it's
pollution driving them
kind of
nuts?
left in the air if he's hallucinating or what is happening.
Because it almost sounds like he's being controlled by them, and it's just like, well, the Arcturians are behind it again. Okay, and if it's not that, then it's the. I
It's
was
mostly
also
that he's gone
suspicious of the
crazy, and we
advisor.
just think that his quote unquote healings have been just luck.
Yeah. All right. So there wasn't a ton that I disliked about the serial anyway. So my favorite scene, um, well, I like the scene where King Paladin says, "We'll settle matters soon enough," and then the Ice Warrior Inspector Ixmari says, or matters will settle you," or something like that. They were trying to. I think they were on their way to confront Skarn with Hayfair or Hafair or so. And yeah, I just thought that the interplay between Peladon and the Ice Warrior was kind of fun. So, least favorite scene. I didn't like how Harfair betrays them, and then she also they trust her again randomly, and then seemingly randomly they give her another chance, and then she winds up stabbing the Ice Warrior yet again when he points out that the trisilicate is leaking into the lake. Like, I get that she's kind of emotional and shit, but maybe she's also going
sudden but
crazy.
inevitable betrayal.
Yeah. Maybe she's also going crazy and has been exposed to the water.
They do hint at
I'm
that at the
assuming
end of the
she's drinking
episode
it.
very
Yeah.
heavily.
So yeah. Further notes: too little David Tennant, but I do like the fact that he was there to be kind of doom and gloomy
I thought you
towards
didn't like
everything.
David Tennant.
I'm beginning to like him. I don't hate him though. I just don't. I'm not a David Tennant fangirl, but I might become one here soon. As he kind of goes through his upteenth cycle as the Doctor here, and that. But yeah, I'm not a big David Tennant fangirl because David Tennant fangirls just drive me nuts sometimes. When that they're just like, oh, he's the best Doctor. I'm like, fuck you. It's Tom Baker.
Okay, we've gone off on
That's
a
a
tangent,
tangent.
and
We're
we've
on time
already.
here.
Anyway,
This segment I think has gone on for half an hour at this point. So.
yeah, would have liked to see a full range of Peladon for Big Finish, and would have liked to see a full range for Galactic Federation for Big Finish. That's it. Oh yeah, and the rating is
Gotta say,
rating would be 4.0, I would say. Not quite enough
4.0.
happening on.
So that brings it up from 3.67 to 3.75. However, the next thing is taking the retcon from my change to the score. And I said if all of the foreshadowing with Skarn and the Doctor saying, oh, you're Skarn and everything pans out to just be a red herring that wastes our time, I would lower the score. And we've finished the box set. It never amounted to anything. It was just a waste of our mental energy. So my score drops from a 3.5 to a 3.0 because it in doing that made the whole box set worse. lowering the score back down to a 3.63.
Now that you say that, I kind of want to lower my score.
Okay,
I'll lower it to a 3.5.
3.5.
Especially now that you mentioned that it doesn't pan out to anything. I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't pan out to anything.
So
Except
now
for the fact that the water is poisoned. Big surprise.
So now the average is a 3.5.
There we go.
All right. I'll pull up my stopwatch, and it's time for Matt to do the summary.
Alrighty.
All right. Ready for a countdown?
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So we start inside the shop of a seamstress who's being hired by what position would you call him?
I was the Chancellor.
Chancellor. She's being hired by the Chancellor of the Peladon royalty to do a new cloak for a new introduction to next ruler, and she's got plans. She's got decent plans. It sounds nice. They're going back to the old school stuff, and matter of fact, she's even pulling out some materials that are very hard to get that were used for some of the original cloaks. But as they're leaving, she's also saying, "Oh yes, my new student is going to be coming in soon, and we'll get him to get to work right away." Lo and behold, it's the 8th Doctor. He starts showing some unique qualities very quickly, being able to rehem his own work outfit in a short period of time, being able to help with the heavy lifting, reaching high objects, dusting, cooking. Seems to be very handy around the place and helping the seamstress with her work. However, he does get her into a spot of trouble when he presents essentially a starscape that actually represents a different planet and not Peladon's. So it's believed that he might be a rebel or something, and she is pulled in for essentially being suspected of it too. Although they are less likely to believe that she is it, and due to her story, I believe that this doctor, air quotes, is it. They, of course, believing that this is a fake doctor, or either way wanted to stop him. The doctor then visits the seamstress 3 more nights to show her the actual state of the world around her that she's been trying to avoid. First, how the workers are treated and what her fellow people are been treated to, and how horrific their living conditions are. How the world outside the walls she's used to is poisoned and slowly dying, even though some of the things she thought was already gone are slowly dying still, but are still there. And I forget what the last one is also to show her and remind her how corrupt the government is above her, because the Chancellor is making plans with off-world aliens to pull something, most likely solve the planet and get rich quick. To which is also mentioned throughout that the Doctor is in communications with what is believed to be a Martian, because we hear a slurred voice every once in a while, which is very much the usual Martian vocal handle. Fast forward ahead of time, the next day, she's let loose. A couple more weeks later down the road, the cloak is finished, much to the pleasure of the Chancellor, and they get to coronation day, and suddenly the new king is heading out on his own, but ahead of schedule. At the same time, a bunch of the beasts of Peladon are also let loose into the streets, showing how rancidly horrible their lives have become, as their once fine and strong bodies covered in fur are now a patchwork, and they look like sad mongrels compared to what they used to be. This causes a riot, which causes a bunch of people to start rebelling in the streets against the royalty in particular, but also just attacking the upper class in general. And as the Doctor has planned, it's going to be the possible rebellion it needs to be. However, the seamstress has shot the Chancellor, and that was not going to plan. The Chancellor was supposed to actually be judged by the people and put through a jury, if you will. So, with that said, the Doctor is not very pleased and leaves the seamstress to her fate, whatever it may be. To which she tries to give an epic speech, and we fade off into music in particular. The Doctor doing the Venusian lullaby, which also, come to find out, is similar to the theme of this entire box set for the opening/closing music. And that is the end of the episode.
I have 4 minutes and 52.8 seconds.
4:54 on my end, so close enough.
Just under 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
All right. So on to the review with the pecking order. Erin, what did you like most about the episode?
I liked most about how the I like how the Doctor is using subterfuge and information gathering as weapons against corruption and propaganda for against the Chancellor, and trying to convince the Chancellor's underling, Arla, the seamstress, about all the terrible things that have been going on in Peladon, and how this is all just cycling through once again. Even though he thought it was like solved with when the Chancellors first started with was it Hallis?
Helaise.
Helaise. So I feel like this is I kind of like Paul McGann's Doctor in that he's kind of more sneaky about stuff, and he he's kind of running around, I'm assuming, in disguise. And yeah, he's just not out in the open and blatant about anything. He knows kind of how these things go and how you need to fight against an oppressive force. So I thought that was interesting. Kind of a different take on how the Doctor usually solves a lot of his problems.
Right. Okay, so you like the Doctor's tactics and way of going about things?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Matt, what did you like?
I like that even though this is a Doctor heavy story, it wasn't a Doctor focus. It very much was focused on the I can't think of her name, the seamstress that was the lead basically for the story.
Arla.
It was very much focused on Arla and what she happens to witness, mostly through interactions with the Doctor.
Yeah, it's it felt very A Christmas Carol, which I thought was a really interesting take.
Kinda, yeah.
And yeah, the whole like the Doctor's there, but you never get to see what the Doctor's thinking. You don't have a companion to work with. You're just seeing things from Arla's perspective. And I'm not sure how much of what I have to say is the same of what I like about that is the same as what you like about that, but it's definitely close enough that I'm just kind of piggybacking on top of it because I don't have a separate thing anyway. But yeah, it would be a really cool way for like an actual episode of Doctor Who to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think even in like season, I mean, I think you might get like an episode or two that are mostly from the Brigadier's perspective. You get literally one episode out of, well, yeah, you kind of start off from Ian and Barbara's perspective, but mostly you're not, the Doctor's not a stranger in most Doctor Who episodes. So I thought I liked that. Also, it's what this also reminded me of on top of A Christmas Carol is Hellraiser 5 and 6, where like the person doesn't realize that they're kind of like in their own like hell slash prison until the end of the episode or at the end of the movie.
Mm.
Like the way this ended kind of felt kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
All right. What we dislike about the episode, Erin?
Disliked. I kind of I know that it kind of feeds back into like the whole cycle that Peladon kind of falls into, with things that might look like it's getting better and then they just wind up falling apart again with corrupt leadership. But that was also kind of annoying because, like, even though the kind of Arla tries to seek redemption in this, she's like trying to plead with the people to kind of change things as they go back in to a more feudal lifestyle. You can't help but feel like nothing's like, if things do get better, they're just going to get worse later on. So it didn't leave me with a lot of hope. I kind of felt like there wasn't really a good ending for the Peladon series. Like, yeah, like there wasn't much hope at all left. So, and it was, kind of the same old, downtrodden masses rising up against the corrupt leadership, which we've seen with Peladon over and over and over again. So, I was hoping for something a little bit different, a little bit more kind of a twist or kind of a change, and it seems like the cycle might be perpetuating itself. So that was
I
kind of
can
a
agree
bummer.
with that. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the issues I have with comic books a lot of the time, where it's like, yes, it's realistic for, bad things to happen, but you want a satisfying conclusion. You don't want, well, the moral of the story is things will always be bad, and you should never try to make them better because they will just be bad. Like that's not a satisfying conclusion to a story.
Don't you know Peter Parker needs to always be miserable?
Yes, in this case, it's Peladon Parker or Peter Peladon. Either way, the alliteration works. All right, Matt, what do you dislike about this story?
Um, I was kind of actually what my biggest pet peeve was that I was kind of hoping that there's going to be follow up on anything from the previous stories to kind of make this a really big good finale, and it just
Mm-hmm.
seems to be more of the same. Actually, it's not bad, but it's definitely not like the big peak I was hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's a direct sequel to the previous story because this is like I think it's actually technically the Chancellor that immediately follows Hilais is the big bad of this one. But it doesn't, yeah, really. I mean, the biggest follow up is, yeah, we used to be treating the poison water and then we stopped.
Oh, so we just shot ourselves in the foot harder this time. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I'm going to go with, and this is something I mentioned last week, is that the whole time has always just been, oh, the Arcturians want the resources. The Arcturians want the resources.
That too.
We never meet a good Arcturian. And yes, I mean, the big bad is more, what's his fucking,
Chancellor.
yeah, it's like Borat or Bojack or something like that.
Very
Um,
nice.
Of course, I closed that tab like I always fucking do. Uh, yes, I'm too mentally past it to not curse. Uh, whatever, Barack. That sounds like the president. Um, but whatever, however they pronounced it, I'm past caring. But yeah, of course he's the big bad. But yeah, the whole like the Arcturans thing got old several stories ago, and they never put a new spin on it. And as I mentioned last week, like the whole point of the first Peladon story, I mean, there's the political intrigue, but part of it was, hey, you can't just assume the Ice Warriors are the bad guys just because sometimes they're the bad guys. Meanwhile, the moral of this box set is you can always assume the Arcturans are the bad guys. They will always be the bad guys.
They'll always be the guys. They'll always be that stereotype bringing their hands in the background, even though they have no hands.
And yeah, so even though they're not the main focus of this episode, like that just feels like a bad, if anything, I won't say lazy, but a disappointing direction to be going in. All right, favorite scenes.
Okay, my favorite scene I think is going to be the doctor singing lullaby to the Eggadors. Just basically just the same way as the third doctor did.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Paul McGann did a really good job with that.
Yeah, it's a very nice throwback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No more songs tonight.
Oh, maybe.
All right, Matt, what's your favorite scene?
Honestly, just the whole, in general, like the doctor's introduction to the plan to show, I can't think of her name now. I can never remember her name.
Arla?
Arla. His plan to show Arla all 3 nights, just something that she needs to know to understand why he's doing what he's doing. It was very Christmas Carol-y of him.
Yep. Doesn't quite fit on past, present, future, but yeah, actually, it is kind of close enough.
It's very close, but it's not exact.
Yeah. Okay, and I think I'm going to go with at the end when the doctor's like, yeah, now you're going to be held to trial. Because it's I mean it makes it the whole story feels so like almost like a Seventh Doctor story. Like I'm a big Seventh Doctor fan, and the idea that okay, like this is the chess master doctor at work. Like he's like, okay, we don't like this bitch, right? She's been turning in members of the Resistance and hobnobbing with the Chancellor and doing her best to like ignore all the things going wrong. So we're going to, turn her to our side, but also punish her for the shit that she's done up to this point. And yeah, I just thought that was a really interesting way to go about it. It really reminded us, yes, this doctor loves to play the clown, but just like the other doctors that like to play the clown, he can be the chess master too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and while he doesn't relish in it, he will put it very bluntly in a straightforward line for you. No, this is what you're doing. Now you get to face what you've got coming to you.
Yep. All right, least favorite scenes, Erin.
There's a scene where the crowd is supposed to be like booing and such, and instead they sound like they're cheering and whistling.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I noticed that
Yeah,
too
they
a little
didn't
bit.
make
I'm like,
that
that's
super
not quite
clear,
the right
yeah.
sounds I'd be expecting for this.
I think you're talking about the scene where he's like, do not boo the child in this cloak. Instead, boo the man that's in charge of him.
And there didn't seem to be any real danger of the crowd getting out of control. There also didn't seem to unless they're supposed to be cheering on the Eggadors that are marching, aren't the Eggadors marching along with the kid or something like that? Or they're marching.
I think the Eggadors are just kind of like
the Eggadors are just like in the streets,
like
yeah,
the doctor
amongst the
slipped
crowd.
them into the city and is just like, here, behold.
Behold what
But
the
there's like
Agadors have become.
there's no cries of fear for from the Agadors, because aren't they supposed to be like vicious animals and stuff, like wolves? Aren't people going to be like, oh God, my baby, get away
But they're
from me?
also
Pretty
extremely
much.
weak and poisoned and stuff
Yeah.
too, though. They're very
Yeah.
emaciated.
But I could see how it definitely would have been beneficial to kind of play that up a little bit more. Because yes, I mean, even a sick animal is still going to, defend itself and snarl and do things to scare enemies away. And I'm looking at the clips you put, and even though Alpha Centauri is not in this one, it just reminds me how veiny Alpha Centauri became in the Monster of Peladon, which did not do anything to stop the accusations of being a penis.
Thanks for those images.
All right, Matt, what's your least favorite scene?
That's better than having pictures of vervoids. Least favorite scene.
Don't fall asleep in it.
I'm trying
Come
to
on,
think
we're
of
in the
anything
final
other
run.
than what Erin mentioned, but yeah, that was the one scene in particular that made me go, "Oh, what happened to our audio guys here?" There's a whole lot of like mishmash sounds that aren't portraying what they really should be portraying.
There's an awful lot of weirdly happy people in this crowd.
There's a lot of weirdly happy people in this throng of would-be murderers and rebellers. And there's a distinct lack of monster noises. There's a distinct lack of anything coming from the new Kid King.
Yeah,
you
I
just hear
didn't
the
even
doctor in
realize
the background,
there
and that's
was
about
a
it.
new Kid King, hardly.
Yeah, just,
like, honestly...
just a weird moment, and it doesn't quite mesh with the rest of it.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened there, but they kind of dropped the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that for a while there, I thought that she was making the cloak for the Chancellor, because I thought that the line had died out and that he was going to try to claim the throne. I didn't realize
I was
until
expecting
after
him
I
to
read
try
the
and steal the
synopsis.
cloak for himself one way or another anyway, but yeah.
I mean, he doesn't need the throne. He's the real power. And I mean, they don't come right out and say it, but the doctor basically says that, like, the kid that's being coronated was, like, being kept in a cell in the prison block.
Was that what he was saying?
Yeah, he seems to be implying it, because he mentions that, like, he says something about, like, keeping a promise to the what was it, like, the child, or in the cell, like, down the corridor or something like that.
No,
Like,
that
that's
was
a reference to the
line.
kid that the seamstress betrayed before these
her
events
apprentice.
happened. Yeah, her previous
kid
apprentice
was
that she
thrown into a
backstabbed.
hole.
Because he said that he was already thrown in an unmarked grave.
No, he said he was thrown into a hole. Like, we could search every cell in this block, in this fortress, and you would never find the hole they threw his corpse into.
Okay.
So it's very heavily hinted that the 8th Doctor met her apprentice, and that's what started the wheels on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do think either way kind of fits with the way this story is.
Honestly, I thought the line of Peladon had died out, and that the Chancellor had ordered the cloak specifically to be made for him, and that he was the one marching through the crowds.
That's why I was expecting something along those lines too, but not exactly that.
And then they mentioned the kid, and I was like, oh wait,
right.
there is a.
And of course, they even keep it ambiguous, because it's like either the previous monarch that died was non-binary, and they just very briefly mention it, or they're so secretive about the royal line now that nobody even knows the gender of who's in charge. which
Mhm.
I'm thinking it's the second is what they were really going for here.
That
Whereas they're just like,
that
we
they're so
don't,
disconnected that they don't even know who the
yeah.
actual ruler is
It's like
anymore at this
we
point.
don't know who's in charge. We don't care who's in charge. We could get arrested for wanting to know who's in charge. All we know is that we answer to the chancellor, but we don't say he's in charge because that would be treason. So, like, based on that, the idea that the new king is a kid that's being kept in a prison cell would really fit. But I mean, from what you said, I think it could go either way.
It doesn't sound like that was what was actually going on, but take it
Mhm.
as you will.
Right. Yeah, I'm more than willing to admit that I might have the wrong interpretation, but I think just going off of the way they say it, it could be taken either way. Which I guess now comes down to me and least favorite scenes. Let's see. So we've mainly focused on the coronation scene and the stuff around it. Are there any other major things? I guess I mean, if I had to pick another scene outside of that I would more nitpick than complain about is the one where basically like the doctor is like, yeah, we're now just, I mean, it's we know that it's illegal for people to come in or out of the city, and all of that. Now the doctor is just going to go on take Arla on a field trip out in the countryside, you know, under no cover, with no disguise, to the point where he's even seen by Silas. Um, Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to choose that scene because the scene with Silas uh, giving Arla the weapon doesn't really make any sense. And I think, yeah, either like, because I don't know if he just like runs into her but if so, why is he run? Like, he gives no explanation for why he would be running. Or is she standing by a doorway and he bursts in the doorway? I know that he's intentionally trying to bump into her, but it's
It
really
sound
unclear
it
how the
sounded to
bumping
me like
happens in
he
a way that doesn't make it look suspicious. Because
yeah, it just sounded to me like he
anyway,
just bumped into her like in the middle of the room or
right.
something. Like
Mm.
actually, she was looking at food, so it sounds to me like he bumped into her while she was sitting at the table, being very
And
extremely clumsy.
it doesn't help that ice warriors always sound like they're out of breath. So, like, my immediate interpretation is that he's like gasping for air, and I have to remind myself he's not gasping for air. He's just an ice warrior. Um, but the first time it happened on my first listen, I didn't realize it was him until somebody said his name. So all I had was the idea that somebody was gasping for air, bumping into her. So that scene, I think, is a bit awkward. It's a bit hard to it's hard to picture in my head personally in a way that doesn't make it look super suspicious. So I'm, really kind of wondering how the writer imagined that scene going in a way that doesn't immediately get Silas arrested and Arla arrested for treason. So, all right. Final thoughts, Erin.
Mm.
I thought this was a pretty good audio adventure. I wouldn't say it was outstanding at all. There definitely was a little bit of confusion in conveying what was going on. Um, I would still recommend people listen to it to round out the box set, but I was disappointed in the ending. I kind of feel like it could have been wrapped up a little bit more tightly. Um, and that so yeah, I mean, it's a little bit disappointing for the ending, but overall, still recommend listening to it.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I would say that the fact that this lacked a tie-in with all the rest of the stories is like the biggest letdown for me. I was expecting far more attachment to a final chapter for this box set in particular, and it just kind of didn't do anything new. It just did the same thing, but from a different point of view that we've done before. That being said, the rest of it wasn't bad. It was well acted, it was well written, and all that other stuff, but it just lacked that oomph. And that kind of, at this point, being the last chapter of this box set, kind of hurts it for me.
Okay, and yeah, I would say I like the writing style of this story. I don't know how well it fits as the finale of a box set because it really feels like a standalone story. Um, and yeah, the fact that it doesn't really follow up from things in a meaningful way, like I'm more and more feeling like they were just like, we want to tell four standalone stories and stuck them in a box set together. But some of the things that they say that make it feel like they should be linked kind of hurt them in that regard. I do think this is a better than average story. But yeah, it would definitely be better if it was actually tying the box set together rather than just being a decent standalone story.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ratings, Erin.
Mm, the more I think about it, the more I think this is just going to be a 3.5 for me.
3.5. Matt.
Yeah, I have to say this is a step down from the last couple because again, this is not as much as I was expecting from it. So, in the end, I'm giving this a 4.
I'll agree with Matt. It's a step down, but not as big of a step down as I think Erin felt, or looking at the score, Erin seems to have felt. So I would say 4.0. So that gives us an average of 3.83, which places this out of 469 things reviewed. It would be number 265. It is not on par with any Big Finish stories. It is not as good as The Condemned, Jago and Lightfoot Revival, Acts 1 and 2, 10th Doctor Adventures Technophobia, and it is better than 6th Doctor Last Adventure The Red House, Master, War Doctor the Innocent, and 4th Doctor Adventures The Evil One. And we pulled this off under 2 hours, so the interim reviews went longer than I expected, but the actual review was pretty short with just the three of us.
Yeah.
How the heck did we pull that one off?
Right. So we actually have time to look at the Scribe Awards. Did you catch that link, or was it too low for you to have noticed that and pulled it up?
I did not catch it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt did tech, so
I'm pulling it up now.
okay. So this is the last of the stories that we are listening specifically because of having been nominated for the 2022 Scribe Awards. I'm aware it's 2024 now, and that's something we might want to talk about if we do this again. But the Scribe Award nominees were 9th Doctor Adventures Girl Deconstructed, 5th Doctor Adventures The Lost Resort, 9th Doctor Adventures The Curse of Lady Macbeth, 9th Doctor Adventures Monsters in Metropolis, Peladon The Truth of Peladon, and 3rd Doctor Adventures The Annihilators. So, at this point now, we can vote which of these do we think should have won out of those nominees. So I guess we continue with our pecking order. So that would be starting with Erin. I'm not sure how many of those you actually were here for, but of the ones you were here for, which one? Were you here for more than Peladon on that list? You were
Oh
here for
gosh.
Monsters in Metropolis, and I
Oh,
think
let's
that's
see.
it. So I think for
Mhm.
you, the vote would come down between Monsters in Metropolis and The Truth of Peladon.
Mm,
Unless there's something else that you caught that you were here for that I'm not remembering. Yeah, that's probably it.
I think I like Monsters in Metropolis a little bit better.
Okay. Um, and your rating for Monsters in Metropolis and Truth of Peladon is the same. So it sounds like it just edges it out then.
Mhm.
Okay, Matt, of those stories, and I mean, we've reviewed them over the course of the past year, possibly more. Which would you vote as the best?
Honestly, I think it was Monsters in Metropolis maybe the most happy out of this list.
Okay.
So I'm actually kind of agreeing with that one.
And you gave that a pretty high rating, 4.5, Monsters in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
And I think
go ahead.
Curse of Lady Macbeth would probably be a close second for me. Because
Crystal Lady
that
Macbeth
was
second.
yeah, that was a pretty good one too.
Let's see. My first thought is that The Annihilators is a more complete story, but that's kind of cheating because that one is a seven-parter and the others are like 30 minutes or an hour at most each. If I were to ignore that without going back and looking at my ratings, I almost want to say Girl Deconstructed would be my choice.
It's another decent one.
Um, Maybe because it's one that doesn't feel like the cast should have been bigger like some of the others sometimes feel. But of course, so the consensus then is Monsters in Metropolis is the best based on the vote of two out of the three members of our panel.
Mhm.
The actual winner was The Curse of Lady Macbeth by
Oh.
Lizzie Hopley.
My second choice.
So that was, yeah, Matt's second choice, and I did not pick a second choice. Which, I mean, I already knew the winner because I had this tab open. So picking a second
I just
choice
had
might
the
have been
list. I wasn't
counterproductive.
paying attention to anyone
Yeah.
that won. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, I had to pull up I had to pull up a second link for that, so it was not on the list there because that would have spoiled the voting. All right, and so that is all we have to say about the Truth of Peladon. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's story, or what you thought of any of the Scribe Award nominees who you think should have won. Don't forget to like the video if you've listened this far. Comment on this. I forgot to mention at the beginning. Comment on this video or the previous podcast if you think we should have a Peladon playlist. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to get our exports every week or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we kick off the new season of Doctor Who with Space Babies, written by Russell T. Davies and starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Mila Gibson as Ruby Sunday. Also featuring The Devil's Chord, written by the same guy and starring the same people. I will not see you then, but everybody else will see you then.
As long as we can get it there in time. See you all next time.